Carl here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. It's take the nostalgia goggles off. Childhood horrors, looking back at movies I watched from a very young age that had an effect on my growing mind, turned me into the horror fan I am these days. And I'm going to, in this series, of what I'm doing is looking back at them from the nostalgic perspective and talking about the effect they had on me as a child, some of my overpowering memories, and comparing it to now. The rewatch. Does it hold up? Is it as good? Is it as strong? Not a review, so to speak, just some musings, really. Random thoughts in my head with very little script beyond some of the details about the film. This is Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night II. Weird, right? I am not going to be talking about Prom Night, the original 1980 slasher movie. I'm not talking about any other entry in the Prom Night series. I am simply talking about Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night II, which is a film that, for some reason, had a shit ton of impact on me that I remember fondly for being very 80s with some great sequences, great acting, great gore, a shit ton of nudity for a youngster, which was very enlightening. In fact, actually, Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night II was when I, as a youngster, bear in mind I would have been very young here, was when I learned or realised that women could have two different sized breasts, basically, based off the lead actor who gets fully nude here in some extended shots. Learned stuff from a very young age. Was it inappropriate for me to be watching this at a young age? Of course it absolutely was. But hey ho, here I am now. Yeah, this is a supernatural horror more than a slasher movie. Now, you might be thinking, why is it called Prom Night 2? It clearly isn't a sequel to Prom Night. It's not. It was its own freaking movie that got the name attached to it to try and sell it. It's at the same high school. That's the connection, the only connection. And it kind of tells a story that's been done before where a prom queen dies and basically haunts and comes back and possesses someone else, but from a very unique, very adult perspective. The story here around Mary Lou Maloney, her dying in an accident, but being a very likable character, and then coming back to kind of take over the body of a sort of not a shy, reserved girl, but certainly one that you wouldn't expect to kind of be on, because Mary Lou Maloney is like a bad girl, likes having sex, smoking, happy enough to sort of sack boys off and insult them to the faces and all of that. That's her character. That's what she basically does. Whereas Vicky, the other lead character, she's a bit more reserved. She has a boyfriend. She comes from a religious family. Her mother is very Margaret White, Carrie's mother kind of style. Not to the extreme, but still very much like, we will pray and all of that nonsense. So when she gets taken over by Mary Lou and becomes that kind of outgoing, over-the-top character, it is obviously a fun contrast. But it's how all of that plays out that I always thought was really interesting. Now, I always remembered this film being quite snappy, frantic, and Mary Lou entering the film quite early on, and all these number of events where Vicky's friends and so on are killed off as they begin to wonder what is going on with Vicky, leading to the big sort of finale at the prom, which is very Carrie-like, but also very unique in its own regards there. However, on a rewatch, goodness me, doesn't this take its time? It's nearly an hour into this film, an hour into a 90-odd minute film, a 95, 96 minute, maybe a little bit longer, but less than a 100-minute film. An hour in that Mary Lou Maloney finally takes over Vicky's body. I was shocked it took that long. But here's the thing, I was still engaged. This feels of its era. It feels and looks of all the vibes of the 80s and what happens around it regarding characters and the long, drawn-out build-up of it. Now, it is slow, I think, from some perspectives, but I was really fascinated because I kind of knew where it pays out. I think if you're coming into this brand new and not knowing how it kind of pays off when Mary Lou takes over and starts to kind of do her shit, you're probably not going to be as invested, particularly as character-wise. There's not a lot of work done really to give them a lot of depth. Like, it's weird, like they have all this time and Vicky never really becomes a hugely likable character, if that makes sense. I find that really odd. And I always thought it was weird that Mary Lou Maloney is her behaviour is chalked up to being so egregiously bad. There are moments, of course, like how she treats Buddy at the prom, which is Michael Ironside. Oh yes, he's in this movie and he's fantastic. like all of that, I get how that's not great behaviour and so on, but the idea that she's promiscuous and stuff like that, it's kind of how she plays it off. Like, so, you know, like it starts with her going, when the movie starts, it's such a great start. She goes to like confession, confesses all these things that like, oh, I like sleeping with boys and stuff like that, like, and all this, although in a more egregious way. But turns out that she's like, oh, but I loved it, and then leaves like her phone number. The priest is all shocked. Like, that's a great intro. I ended up really liking Mary Lou more than anything else. Of course, it's being a horror movie. That's what matters. And when this stuff comes up, when it does happen, the horror stuff, it can be fantastic. The long sequence that takes place in the shower room, the changing room, that's where you get a lot. Well, it's where you get all your nudity, full frontal nudity, galore here, is long. But it's also done really well, really tensely done, really, really drawn out, clever, and has a fantastic ending that I love the effect of the two lockers smashing together and that goopy stuff pouring out. It just sets your imagination aflame. And of course, when Mary Lou returns at the end and breaks out of Vicky's body and that madness, God, that's fun. This is just fun. Rewatching it, I had a blast. I was stunned, like I said, by how long it takes Mary Lou to come into the film as having possessed Vicky, but I wasn't bored. It still holds up. I loved it as a youngster. I love it even more now. Definitely one, if you've never seen, well worth checking out. Don't be put off by the Prom Night II thing. It means nothing. This one is simple. Call us Hello Mary Lou. Forget the Prom Night II completely. It's irrelevant to the entire film, and you'll have a great time. 80s through and through, 1987, directed by Bruce Pittman. What do you reckon? You got any thoughts? Did you have any encounters in regards to like I did with this film, or what you learned from a very young age? You know what to do. Let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at gbhbl. Just search for gbhbl and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.